much for staying tuned to Champions TV. This is our second part of our discussion, and today we were talking about waste management. And our guest in studio is an environmentalist, Lawrence Rapando, and is also interested in environmental conservation and sustainability at large. So let's continue with our discussion, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
And just let me take you back from our previous discussion.
Yes.
We were talking about the bylaws and the policies.
Yes.
So what are some of the benefits of the bylaws and the policies in waste management?
When we talk about the benefits of policies and bylaws of the solid waste management, this one helps to regulate and also to manage our environment so that we should not pollute, so that we should not destroy our environment. Because when the policies are in place, they help you as a guideline to conserve and sustain our environment. So if you follow them well, we shall enjoy the prosperity of our natural resources. So they are just in place to guide us on what we are supposed to do so that we can understand the value of nature, and to understand the value of ecology, and to understand the value of our natural resources that God has given us. Okay. Yes, they are not in place to harass us, but they are in place to guide us.
Yeah, to make us understand.
Understand it, yeah.
Okay, and so we have the Sustainable Development Goals and the Big Four agenda
Yes.
in relation to waste management. Can you
Yes.
kindly talk about that?
When we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, these are the goals that were enacted by the United Nations, and putting our country being among the United Nations countries that are together to support this agenda. And when I look onto that, I look onto the Big Four agenda that was laid down by our president for our nation to prosper. And the president was talking about industrialization, manufacturing. And when I look onto that, I consider also the solid waste. There's those small micro-enterprise industries that are helping in solid waste management. First, you find that this micro-enterprise, let me give you an example. Like where I am, I'm working with the women and with the youth, and we are producing organic manure from wastes. And this is a source of income to these women and the youth, whereby we are collecting eggshells from the hotels, we are collecting tea leaves from hotels, we are collecting also the bones from hotels and the artifact makers, those who are making earring necklaces from the artisans. You are collecting from them. And this was considered as a waste in the community. Nobody was using it. But because of innovation, because of creativeness, we are finding that we are using it and we are making as a source of income to the community. Also, we are recycling recyclable papers from schools as we champion environmental clubs. You see, it's an empowerment and it's an advocacy, and also to these women, they're enjoying because they are benefiting from solid waste. Let me give you an example. Have you gone to Dandora? Have you ever been in Dandora? No, you've never been there. Because there is people who are seeing that there's a gold in waste, solid waste at Dandora. And let me tell you, because there's categories of people who have considered themselves. There's, I can use it as a household. We have scavengers. We have brokers in solid waste because they make as a source of income. They get a lot of money from those electronic waste. You see, when you sell an electronic waste, like when you go to Ngara, there's a friend of mine who is dealing in electronic waste. So they are segregating those waste. They come up with the reusable waste. They sell back to our community. They dismantle the computer. They remove some gold in it. They sell and they export to other countries. But now also, you find that we have Rui Center at Embakasi. They are also dealing with the electronic waste. And it has created employment to the youth. It has created employment to our people within the citizen of this country, the citizen of this nation. So it's very useful as a source of income. Like these mamas that I'm dealing with them, they're recycling this paper. They're making eco bags. They're making medicine packs of different grades, and they're selling. But they just used to clean. But when we educated them, I did an advocacy for them. I trained them on the innovation So they are making a source of income. You can visit the place and see what they're doing.
Thank you for that. I think you'll give us the details, but after the discussion, so that all the viewers who are interested can also take a step and visit you guys.
Yes.
So we have the county government and we have the government. The national government. So how can they be involved in waste management?
First, how the national government and the county government can be involved. First thing, because you'll find that how can they be involved? They should consider youth first. And when you look onto sustainable development goals, it talks about gender. It talks about SDG number 17. It talks about partnership. SDG number 5, it talks about gender. So when you're talking about that, if you check SDG number 1, Sustainable Development Goal number 1, 2, it talks about poverty, hunger in our nation. And it talks about clean cities and communities and clean cities in our country. So when I talk about that, the government should enable the youth who are dealing in solid waste. They should empower the youth. They should bring the funds to the youth for the empowerment so that these youth can understand the value of solid waste. Another thing, the policies and the bills that is coming in place, the youth should be involved as the stakeholders so that they can participate and give the views. Let's say, for example, when I have a dump site, when I want this to transport my waste, it's not my responsibility to transport waste. The county government has an act, has a regulation that talks about on the transportation of solid waste. It's the responsibility of the county government to transport those waste from the community to the designated place of waste collection or to the dumping site. It's not the responsibility of our youth to collect waste and then also to transport to the dumping site. It's the responsibility of the county government to help the youth to make our environment clean by transporting the waste. Okay. Yes, and another thing, our national government, like National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, it should help to reinforce those policies and regulation and create awareness to the public to understand what are these policies, what are these bills that are in place. And another thing, they should come up with their data to understand youth who are dealing with waste in the community. Also, the youth who are dealing with waste, they need to be given funds so that they can manage their waste well. So they should set aside the funds on environmental solid waste management to the youth who are dealing with it. And then also they should give skills, bring experts. They should pay the experts to train these youth on solid waste, because most of them will find that they don't have safety gears. And as we have understood that solid waste has a lot of effects, have risk hazards that are being caused to those youths. So I'll urge the government to bring the experts, to bring the environmental students who have to bridge the gap between the learned youth in the environmental sector and unlearned youth who have skills together, to be empowered, to create that knowledge, to transfer that knowledge to each other, and we shall manage our solid waste well. And then also, the bills should be well articulated to the community and to the society to understand it very well. Okay. Yes.
And so we have the issue of environmental social enterprises, yes, which affects the youths and the women, yes, in the community, that is. Yes. So can you talk about this, and maybe you can bring what you have been doing with the women, mm-hmm, and also include your location where you can be found so that all the viewers that are interested can find you.
Okay. The first thing, when I talk about social enterprise, it was part of the unit that I did when I was doing my Bachelor of Science in Environment. So it made me, when I went to the community, environment is not about cleaning and growing trees, because most people, they plant trees instead of growing trees. So I realized there was a gap. People knew that you just plant a tree and you have just conserved the environment. But I realized there is a social enterprise. So I went back to the community. That's what I call giving back to the community. And I realized there was, like in Kibera, they say Kibera is so dirty, so filthy. For me, I didn't see that filthy. I saw that there is an opportunity for my community to enjoy the conservation. And when you talk about sustainability, what is our generation that is coming? How will they benefit? So I went, because these women, they were just doing cleanups, only cleanups, and they become tired. There's nothing they're benefiting. But I saw an innovation in those solid waste. So I went to them and I talked to them. And in that line, I came up with the innovation of recycling waste. And also in that line, we came up with the issues of food security, where we are doing kitchen gardening in schools. And through those clubs, we are also creating awareness to the students and to the pupils within the schools, so that they should not just take Kibera as filthy and so dirty, or in informal settlements. So that social enterprise has enabled them. They are selling the packaging bags. And let me talk about the plastic bags. In fact, in the community in informal settlement, the most people, the traders, they were using plastic bags. But what was the alternative? The government did not give the alternatives. So because of that creative and the knowledge that I gained from the university, it has given me the alternative to help the government to solve these issues, whereby we are doing recyclable eco bags that can be used to package. So that's why I told the women, there is an opportunity here for you to do, the women and the youth. And then also with that knowledge, I'm talking to the youth groups who are dealing with solid waste management. Like we have Kibera Green. Yesterday they had an event, I had to go there. Also for them, they need capacity building, for them to be trained, for them to be educated about the solid waste. They're just doing it, but they don't have knowledge about it, but they have skills. So how the government can check on that? So that is the gap that I saw. So I'm doing capacity building and awareness to them to understand the value of solid waste in the society. And that's why we call social enterprise. And we're showcasing how to make organic manure, because we want to make our farms to be to have a productivity and high fertility. And we are discouraging inorganic fertilizers. Let us use organic fertilizers, and this becomes a social enterprise. And also tree nurseries establishment, that is a social enterprise. Solid waste management, segregation of solid waste, electronic waste, bottles, we segregate them, organic manure to make manure, bottle, recycle them back to the companies, to the industries. When I talk about tree nursery establishment, so it will depend the youth and the women on what they want to do. They'll choose for what they want to do. So the government, the national government and other organizations need to support them to enjoy the social enterprise and to see a source of income from solid waste. Okay. And they are seeing it. So we are dealing with them in Kibera. Even some of them they are requesting in Udhiru. I go and help in the capacity building. Some of them even in Dandora. They're also talking that I should Kariobangi, Korogocho, so that I can capacity build, to give back my knowledge I learned from the university.
Okay, that's awesome. So I want you to face the camera and just give the final word to the viewer about waste management. Okay.
My point is this to the viewer, that let us be united, let us be cooperative, and let us join the government and international bodies on sustainable development goals and the Big Four agenda that was laid down by the president, so that we can have zero waste in our nation. And it's between me and you to be responsible on the waste that we produce. And majorly, I want to talk about the industries. The industries, you need to follow your footprints that you are taking to the community. So make sure you follow your footprints and collect your waste back to your industries and support the community so that they can live a good health life that is of product. Thank you, and may God bless you, because nature is our resource given by God.
To our viewer, thank you so much. You have heard from the environmentalist, and I'm also urging us to take part in solid waste management to ensure that indeed environmental conservation reaches its great height and sustainability is promoted, to ensure that the future generations are not placed in a compromising situation. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Champions TV. Until next time, enjoy.